As the calendar turns to March, all eyes in the NFL turn to free agency, one of those periods of time that can completely upend a dynasty manager's plans and the teams that they have built. Joining me today is my fellow Football Guys colleague, Tipp Major, talk about his trading strategies as we enter one of the most volatile periods of the calendar. That's next on Dynasty Compass. Welcome to Dynasty Compass. I am your host, Jeff Blaylock, the other Jeff B from Footballguys. So glad you are here, whether you are watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform. Welcome to you, and welcome also to my friend and Footballguys colleague, Tipp Major. Tipp, how you doing? And welcome to the show.
Yo, what is up, Jeff, man? I mean, we saw each other last month, right? In Vegas. So we saw each other recently, but it feels like it's been so long, bro. Like it really has. It feels like it's been like one of those like fantasy football expo droughts where you got to wait a whole year to see you again, bro. But it was good to talk to you last week. And I get to see you again 2 weeks in a row, bro. Let's try to make it 3. Let's see what we could do.
Exactly. Even though we're in just 2 dimensions, it's still always good to see your bright, smiling face and hear your voice and all the enthusiasm that you have for life and for fantasy football. How's the offseason treating you? And to my viewers and listeners, my dogs are going crazy in the background. So if you're hearing barks or growls, know that they're playing happily, and we will just kind of ignore them. So how's the offseason treating you, Tipp?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been planning, preparation. I love spaces. That's kind of where I started on X, and I just can't get enough of it. So I'm partnering up with a friend from Rotoballer, and then, of course, Natter, who I've been tagging along with the last couple of years. We're going to do a space, and I can't wait for it, man. Also doing some things for Footballguys as well. Upcoming, I'm pretty sure I'll get into some of the draft content and once the players get drafted. And then with Rotoballer articles, and then I did the space with them at the end of the season, and that went so well, man. It was so much fun. It was a sit-start space. But other than that, man, right now I'm kind of decompressing, but there's no days off, bro. It's like always, like there's always something. This NFL is crazy.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. I mean, I always say in Dynasty, there's no off season. And one of the reasons that we are so interested in playing Dynasty is because there's no off season. We get to follow the NFL news around. The NFL never stops, and neither do we, and certainly neither do you. So as we're getting into our topic today, we are talking about trading strategy, and the approaches that you take, Tipp, as you manage your teams, try to improve them through trading process. And I think an appropriate place to start is right where this show left off. We had Heath Cummings on last week.
Oh, nice.
He did a one-round mock draft with me. Little different, though. We didn't alternate picks. He got to choose every time whether he picked a player or traded the pick away. So he got into some discussion about trading back there. So let me just kind of start where I left him, which is, this seems to be a real particularly poor year for rookie classes, especially if you are a QB needy superflex team and you don't have the 101 or possibly the 102. So is there any hope beyond Mendoza in this class, or is there even hope that if you're holding 101 and QB needy, you might be interested in trading that pick and punting the position instead of taking Mendoza at the top of your draft?
Punt team, come out, punt team. We need you. This is we're aborting the mission. We are punting. Look, I know people want to maybe see Ty Simpson, but if it's not Mendoza, you're going to have to wait till next year from what the experts are saying and, what Mike Kashuba has said. What I'm hearing is like the class next year for quarterback is going to be a lot better as opposed to this one. But yeah, if you don't have Mendoza, I know some people, again, are wanting to see Ty Simpson, but I think it's Mendoza, and then, that's it at this point.
I would like to see Ty Simpson spend another year at the college level since he's only got, I believe, 15 career starts, and that's a That's a pretty small sample size to base a first round pick on.
Right. And who was the last guy who had minimal starts? It was Anthony Richardson. And I mean, look at that. Like, that is a thing. You are so right. Reps are a thing.
Yeah, especially now in our NIL era where there is encouragement to stay, and quarterbacks are not only staying longer but transferring to other programs and having to learn new systems as they go. So they're getting a little bit more equipped. But I don't think we're going to see that really until 2027. I'm with you. If it's not Mendoza, it's nobody, and I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that it's not Mendoza either. And as you go any farther down, lots of uncertainty in terms of landing spots, roles, everything. Do you like trading into uncertainty, or do you like to wait until you've got clarity on all the players' situations before you start dealing them?
You know, when you play in as many leagues as we play in, Jeff, you're going to do a little. For me, I do a little bit of both. Mm-hmm. There's some leagues where I'm just going to be really, really cautious as a trade manager, and then there's some leagues I'm like, man, let's see if this blows up the league, or like what happens in this case. So it definitely has its advantages when you know some clarity, especially when it comes to like an injury, or like especially coming back from an injury. So you want to know there, but I feel going bold sometimes. It could also, if you have a player that's really talented and they go to another situation or another team, you gotta also factor that into it too. Because let's say, for instance, Devon Achane, right? I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere, but let's just say his name starts popping up, he gets traded. Well, you don't want him to get him traded to the Jets with Breece Hall if he's franchised. You want him to get traded to somewhere like Kansas City or I don't know, maybe the Texans or something like that. You want to see those players. You want to see what the certainty is for those players, and then you can base your decision off of that.
Yeah, you don't want to see anybody traded to the Jets. I mean, let's be pretty clear about that. And we all, I think, want to see Breece Hall traded away unless you are an Jets fan, in which case I'm sorry about that, but
they're still around.
I think so. I think so. I think so. But so
Fireman Ed's still there.
But what you're saying about talent, I think, is important, because whatever role a player had wherever they're playing now, that isn't necessarily what they're going to pick up and be able to do where they're going. And so that to me is something you've got to watch for as well. Who else? When we're just in rumor time, who else is on that team that might play a similar role and either, caps our guy at somewhere, or maybe he's getting out from under somebody who's capping him where he is now? Is that something you'd look at as well? You look at the rest of the rosters of these teams when you're thinking about trading a player on them?
Absolutely. Because, for instance, you have a guy like Tyler Allgeier, right? So let's say you have Tyler Allgeier, and you know that he has done really well on the Falcons. He's had 1,000-yard season, and you know that he is testing the waters to go elsewhere and play to be a number one back, And if he goes to a team like the Texans or like a running back needy team, man, that would do really wonders for him. So what I'm doing is I'm being a little bit aggressive as the Tyler Allgeier owner or manager, and also as the person trying to get Tyler Allgeier. I'm being aggressive as the manager, saying, look, man, he's about to remember Michael Turner? Remember Burner Turner back in the day? Like remember he signed up with the Falcons and just took off? Like, this is going to be the next Burner Turner. And so that's kind of the way you could look at it as a manager of him. And then if you don't have him, you can also be like, man, you know what? I'm really down on this certain player. It can be, somebody who really had a decent year, maybe like a Quentin Johnson. It was inconsistent, but a decent year. I don't think he's going to do it again. Tyler Allgeier, maybe I can package him with somebody to entice it a little bit more. But maybe the manager of that Tyler Allgeier is sleeping a little bit. So you got to be very strategic, and you got to know who you're trading with when it comes to it as well. Because if they need wide receivers on their team, well, you can go, and you have a bunch of wide receivers that are decent. You can actually, pick those two and try to get somebody like a Tyler Allgeier who, if he goes to a team that is running back needy and he is the main guy running the ball, boy, look out. I think he can really have a good season.
Yeah, it's interesting that you got to kind of have a little bit of cognitive dissonance, because on the one hand you have to hype up his value, and on the other hand you have to not hype up his value, so you could trade him away for high and trade him for low. So I'm not, because you're not making the same trade in the same league, but you're having to do it across multiple leagues. So that's a bit of a challenge, I think, for some people to kind of value the player in two different ways. At the same time as you're talking to two different managers about making that kind of a trade. But, you're talking about player movement, and we've got a lot of that coming up. The free agency window is opening very, very soon. We're already, hearing the rumor mill. We're already hearing about different things. Is free agency a good time to acquire veteran players, or is it a good time to trade them away, or is it neither of those things?
I think it's a good time to wait if possible, but a savvy manager who's on the receiving end of some of these trades, they'll, like on Sleeper, you'll have that where you can send them exploding offers for like 24 hours. Like, they'll do little things like that and they'll say, I'll sweeten the pot a little bit more, but it's an exploding offer. So if you have one of those in those leagues, yeah, what, you gonna be a scaredy cat? Like, don't be a scaredy cat. Like, look at this situation, look at the landing spots. What I always like to do, Jeff, is I always like to look at the different landing spots that people are projecting for these players. And then I go and look at it and I'm like, man, this really makes sense. This makes no sense to me. Or this could make sense if these things change. And then I look at the coaches and see who's the coaching's there. And if you had a coaching overhaul and they have a need for that and they want to win, then that might be one of the landing spots for that player. So that's kind of how I look at it. And there's other things too, obviously, but that's kind of how I look at it. So when you have a player like that, you can be aggressive if you know the details and research your answers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number of people are going through that exercise right now with Malik Willis, the backup quarterback from Green Bay, who is, by all accounts, about to get paid. Good for him. But, when you're looking at potential places he can go, we have a list of QB needy teams. It's quite long. There's probably about a dozen teams on that list, but only one of them has Green Bay's former coaching staff leading it now, and that's Miami. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to Miami, but that's a reasonable bet out of the 12 that's certainly a possibility. And if you can see Malik Willis in that offense, this would be your window of acquiring him is getting short, but it's still there probably because someone not paying as much attention as you as a savvy manager are going to be may not be aware that that's the dynamic that's potentially going on. But that's not something we will know. But if you wait until he signs that $30 million contract somewhere, he's now officially a starting quarterback, and particularly in Superflex, not available anymore.
Yeah. And I will say one thing, guys. Look, if Malik Willis goes to Miami, I got one word for you: Kevin Patullo.
Ooh, you're triggering my Eagles fans, man. Well, that affects the wide receivers too, because that's just okay. Hopefully, they all have great straight line speed because all they're doing is running straight down the field. Yeah. So let's say you're getting offers, whether they're exploding or not, whether you have actual time to review them or it's take this or it's gone. How is a dynasty manager supposed to evaluate trade offers that are going to be involving unrestricted free agents, especially this early in the process where everybody's still basically on the table?
Right. And there's a ton of factors. I mean, one thing that I like to look at is the contract, like their contract situation. When they sign on the dotted line, a lot of times that can tell you what the team thinks of them. And I think that we could see that with Tyler Allgeier this year. If the team signs him and they sign him to a decent contract. I mean, look, Kenneth Walker, I was projecting him to get about $12 million a year. There was a running back just recently signed for like $8 million. I can't remember his name though, Jeff. But anyway, he just signed and I was like, oh, he's
Javonte Williams.
Javonte Williams, yes, with the Cowboys. Thank you. Yep. He just signed for $8 million a year. And I'm like, oh, there's no way the Super Bowl MVP is going to get 12. He's probably going to ask for 13, 14 a year. And so now you got one of those situations where if he's getting that type of money, that's starter. That's high dollar. That is, you are getting the ball money. So you got to look at those situations too. So I look at the contract situations.
And especially with a team like the Cowboys, that is really unusual for the Jones boys to reward a quarterback, rather a running back with a reasonably lucrative extension. It's possible Williams would have gotten more money if he tried the free agent market, but signing a running back this early in the process when we know so many other running backs are going to be out there, that does tell you quite a bit about what the Cowboys think that they have in their hands with Javonte Williams, and that they are willing to reward that and pay that now and lock that in and see what's going to happen out there on the market.
Yeah, he earned it. I mean, he absolutely earned it, man.
Absolutely. So, at what point, because we've got, of course, we got free agency now, and then we're going to have the draft in April, and both of those things, can send shockwaves across player usage and across the league. At what point in this sort of uncertainty window do you think players tend to have the most value, especially if you're looking to trade them away?
Yeah, I think right now is when their values are highest to me. Just avoid the franchise tag,
yeah,
please. But you can build your value based on those landing spots. So to me, when you have those landing spots, you already know, okay, this guy is going to most likely be able to do this in this offense. But again, you have to look at a lot of factors.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on in avoiding the franchise tag. I mean, we're talking about we're in code talking about Breece Hall in particular. If Breece Hall is franchised with the Jets, he's at one value. If, however, he signs as a free agent or is traded to Kansas City, he has a very different kind of value. And so it's kind of like you have to both, and you either have to anticipate what that move might be and be willing to gamble on that, or you have to pay whatever price you're going to pay in terms of either lesser value or more expensive to acquire the player once they get that landing spot. So, I mean, are there any particular positions, do you think, that have bigger value swings based on free agency rumors, and not even just the signing, just where people are thinking about signing, where the talk is? Or do you think all the positions are about the same when it comes to that?
I feel like the biggest buzz is the running backs. This year they seems like you got several of them. You have Kenneth Walker III. You've got Travis Etienne, who had a good year.
Yep.
But these things change yearly. I mean, one year you had wide receivers be really big, as far as who's going to be the one to sign the big contract. And so, but this year I do feel like it's running backs that we got to pay a little bit more attention to, because a lot of these teams go into 2-back systems and all this 13 personnel supposedly coming out, like all this, like all these bigger, or I should say, more jumbo, like bigger sets, with the players. When you have those, that means that you're going to start getting to run the ball a little bit more too. So it's to me, it's just the running backs are going to be really, really big, really key this year.
Yeah, and ETN I think is an interesting case study because just a moment ago we're talking about looking at what that contract is and what the team thinks of a player based on when they sign them and how much it's for. You have a player like ETN who had a reasonably good season, maybe even a good season, depends on your viewpoint and your fandom, I suppose. But Jacksonville seems like they're willing to let him walk away. What does that tell you about him relative to the other running backs that are in the free agent market?
It's no hiding the fact that he's had, injuries in the past and he's not the youngest running back. And, I think that he might be on the decline part of, give me all the money, that type of part. So it's kind of like, he's at a almost at a lull for himself. And I think what the teams are looking at, or what Jacksonville's looking at, is we got this young stud in Bishal Tootin, and don't forget about LaQuinton as
LaQuint
well.
Allen.
And Quentin Allen, he's good too. Like they've got two really good young running backs that they believe in. Yeah, they may not deploy Tootin as the number one, but you can have a semblance of both of them, and that's what Liam Cohen likes to do anyway. He likes to use those multiple running backs. So a lot of them do, man. It's cool to see how it's working out for these running backs. But anyway, when you have a situation like that, for me, for Travis Etienne, it's almost like he's got to go to a really good situation. It cannot be a bad situation. It has to be like Kansas City, somewhere that he's going to get a lot of opportunities near the red zone. One of those type teams.
Yeah, and LaQuint Allen, just stay with Jacksonville because this is another interesting kind of point for you as a dynasty manager who's looking to make some trades. LaQuint Allen is probably not on the tip of very many people's tongues right now, but he's poised to be potentially the RB2 in a Liam Cohen run offense. And that's not a bad thing to be if you want to go out and get that. And he's probably cheap enough right now that even just doing it speculatively, it probably is not going to cost you very much to just pick him up now because people are really not thinking about him. But if you wait until ETN is gone and signs somewhere else, that price goes up. And then if Jacksonville doesn't draft a running back, it goes way up because then he is cemented as that number two back there. So be watching for those kinds of things too. That's something that you're always looking at and saying, okay, this RB3 could now be an RB2.
Yes, absolutely. Especially in an offense like that, where Liam Cohen historically likes to use two running backs. And yeah, dude. To me, that offense seems to be going nowhere but up. I mean, it might plateau, but right now it's going up. It's ascending.
Yeah, it certainly seems like, Trevor Lawrence has finally gotten it together in a way that we all kind of hoped he would when we drafted him some time ago. And yeah, it is what I'd call an ascending offense. So definitely one to watch. But most leagues, most dynasty leagues, now let's get back into the dynasty world for a second. Most leagues have not had their rookie drafts yet. There are a few sicko leagues that have already done them and some Debbie leagues that did it 3 years ago. But does free agency, does it affect how you look at and value draft picks in this year's rookie draft?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it definitely depends on where they sign, if they go to another team, because if the franchise tag or the non-exclusive franchise tag, if that would be my first choice, first of all, over any rookie. If you get a player that is on that non-exclusive franchise tag, that means they can still sign with someone else.
Yep.
Or they can sign that franchise tag and then they're going to bust ass the next year to stay on that field and do whatever they can to stay healthy to get that big contract.
Yeah.
Like those are sweet spot players, man. And like George Pickens, if he gets franchise tagged, he's one of those guys because a lot of people were on him last year because it was on his rookie, his last deal of his contract. Yep. Was he going to get signed? All the off the field stuff. And, he balled out and now he could get that franchise tag and he's going to ball out again this year, try to stay as healthy as possible. And, that's music to our ears for Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, we love contract years, right? Because that's when players have to show out if they're going to get paid, unless they happen to be a backup quarterback who can run, in which case you can get paid now without having to do that. But that does mean, I think we tend to look at franchise tags particularly as a negative. And again, sorry, Jets fans, Breece Hall. We keep coming back to Breece Hall. Maybe because I need therapy over him, so I acquired a whole lot of shares of him last season, thinking he would be somewhere else, and now he's not. But never minding that fact, it is still a ball out kind of year for him because he does want to get paid. They're not going to keep franchising him, presumably. At some point, Breece Hall hits the open market. So do you see franchise tagging this year? Maybe one thing for Breece Hall, but do you see it as a net positive, maybe because there's more clarity of the destination they're going to, or like with Breece, maybe a net negative because of more clarity of the destination?
Right. I think he's that one that's just stuck, man. It's like a nasty purgatory that he's stuck in, dude. So it's like the only hope for him, for Breece Hall, is he moves away from the Jets, because again, he moves away from the Jets, and yes, he's going to sign a contract, but he's going to ball out that first year because of all this crap that's happened, with the Jets. But yeah, it's one of those things where, again, you do have to, if it is a franchise player, you're going to be motivated for that year. So for Dynasty, you're kind of on pins and needles. That's more of a redraft thing. But again, if you get a player who's young enough, like a George Pickens, T. Higgins was another player that they can't franchise tag him for years, and then he would respectfully sign it and go out there and ball out, or get hurt, and that was the thing. He just kept getting hurt, and but when you have a player like that, George Pickens, Breece Hall, like you just hope that, okay, I got a really good year out of him from Dynasty last year. Or George Pickens, can I get another good year from George Pickens? Can I get another good year from Breece Hall, even though he's stuck in this purgatory.
Yeah, and then because we're looking out several years, if he's stuck in this purgatory, gives me something decent. Can he do something really good the following year potentially? Unless they franchise him, again,
Ugh.
which is always a possibility.
I mean, Jeff? Isn't he 2 years removed from that knee injury?
Yes.
2 years removed from that knee injury.
Yes.
I mean, come on, Jets. Like the dude is like, I'm sorry. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah,
the dude. I mean, superstar before the knee injury, and now he's working himself back to becoming a superstar again. Man.
Yeah. All of us I of course traded for him a lot, but those of us who also drafted him with their 101 pick a few years ago, hold on, just hold on. It's coming. It's really coming at some point, right? It has to. He's got the talent.
He does have the talent, bro.
Got the talent. So we're gonna have a lot of rumors, a lot of rumors coming up soon. Some are better than others, but most of them are still just rumors. Of course, you've got several different kinds of dynasty teams depending on their situation. One of those, of course, is contenders and the kind of win now teams. In our compass metaphor, those are the teams either in the West, that's win now, or the North is our perennial contenders. How aggressive do you think managers of those kinds of teams that are eyeing a championship this year, how aggressive should they be during this free?
Yeah, I had a couple of dynasty teams where I was like really, really, really not a contender, and then the other one I was a contender. I actually won the league, so I'm still like taking an approach where I want to add some value depth. Like for instance, if I have a player that I know is getting a little older, but had a really good season, maybe has one more good season, like a Josh Jacobs, maybe. If I have a player like that on my team, I'm trying to see if I can get him off my team, get some picks for him, or maybe get another wide receiver or a tight end if I'm scarce there. Even though tight ends last year had a little bump of resurgence.
Yep.
But if I'm weak at another spot, that's where I'm going to go for if I'm a contending team, because I just want to add a little bit more depth, just in case there's a big time injury, or just in case whatever happens, off the field stuff happens. So. I just want to add to that depth.
Yeah, you sound just for that answer. You sound a little bit like me in the philosophy. I don't like to trade within a position. I don't like to send a running back off for another running back. There usually needs to be some other positions in the works there, because I'm not necessarily. I don't know that I could send off, for example, here's Josh Jacobs with 1 or 2 years left. Send me, your rookie that's got 5 years left. Send me Quinton Judkins for Josh Jacobs. Not many people who would take that deal, and I would feel very bad about offering that kind of a deal. So I really would too.
Yeah, and not to sound all Thanos, but I mean, like that creates balance. That creates balance among the league. Like you got these top heavy teams that are like all running backs, but then their wide receivers are maybe a wide receiver 2, and most of them compiled of like wide receiver 3s and 4s and maybe a 6. Like when you do that, when you trade a running back for a wide receiver, it creates some balance within not only your team, but also the league. And man, it can be really competitive that way.
Yeah, it's great to have sort of this. Yeah. It is. It's also great to have this sort of healthy balance of teams, either contenders and rebuilders, and positional scarcity in one place or another, and positional surpluses, because that's kind of what makes trade markets work, right? I mean, you've got to have things that other people want, and they got to have things that you want, or there's no point trading with them. So you need that kind of activity. And so to that point, I mean, if you're one of the rebuilders, which going back to, Dynasty Compass, the compass metaphor, the rebuilders are in the South. Is free agency because things went south. Is free agency a good time for rebuilders? I mean, is there maybe some additional leverage in trade talks that you may have because of the assets that you're sitting on?
I feel that rebuilding a team doesn't have much leverage in trade talks, because they're usually got like 1 or 2 really, really good players, and it's just compiled of nothing but trash after that. So, you have to part ways with one of those stars. Hopefully it's like a really, really guy like a Bijan, or maybe a Josh Allen, he's got a few more years in him, or maybe a Drake May, or Puka Nakua. One of the, I mean, you're gonna have to let him go, dude. If you wanna, you're gonna have to let him go. You're gonna have to rebuild this thing properly. I had to do it. I had a league where I
Yep.
had Bijan Robinson, and my team was crap, dude. Like it was a terrible team. I think in the last 2 years I won 4 games. Like the team
No.
was bad, and so like now I'm like, okay, I gotta get rid of Bijan. It hurts me, it pains me, but I gotta do it. So I think that's when you have to just sell on the big hype players, the big name players. Hopefully you can get a twofer for that one player, get two,
Yeah.
a good RB2 and a good wide receiver two, or something like that, and try to build from there. But yeah, and you got to try to get draft picks too.
Yeah, exactly. I think a package of all that for someone like Bijan, who's a league winning kind of talent, that speaks to a couple of things. One, thank you for not Brees Halling Bijan Robinson. Everyone in your league really appreciates that. But secondly, I mean that is a hard aspect of rebuilding, but one that you aren't going to maximize value if you aren't willing to part with the best talent that you have on your team. Mm-hmm. And even though that's a cornerstone you could build around, you can conceivably get more tools to build by letting him go to a contender who has got things that you might be able to work with, including draft capital. I mean, if you get a draft pick, a first-round pick from a contending team, that can still be somebody pretty good, especially if we're looking at 2027 and a very deep draft class, or it could package those together to move up. And so that's always something to kind of look for. But it is hard. It's tough trading someone like Bijan Robinson if you're a 4-10 team. But you're going to stay one if you have him and nothing around him.
Yeah.
And then there's also teams, who are somewhere in between rebuilding and contending. Maybe they're not quite sure exactly which direction they're going to go. They've taken some bets on some players that, maybe they develop, maybe they don't. Like they picked up Terrence Ferguson last year. Maybe he turns into what they drafted him for in LA, or maybe he becomes one of a handful of rotating tight ends. Every once in a while it falls into the end zone. So, if you are that kind of a team, you're not sure where you are yet. Should you be doing any trades right now in this free agency window?
I think you sit tight right now. And you have to, this is where you wait to see where players land. And then if you see where you see you like a player, like for instance, let's say Tyler Allgeier, right? Mm-hmm. And Tyler Allgeier lands with the Chiefs. And I think that would be an ideal situation for him.
Yeah.
So he lands with the Chiefs. Now I'm looking at my team and I'm like, okay, who could I give up that's, it's not going to break the bank, but it's going to give them enough if they're weak at a certain position, give them enough to where they'll give up Tyler Allgeier, even though he went with the Chiefs. And if I have to throw in an extra player or a draft pick, I'll do that because I think he can be. I already got Jonathan Taylor. I already got like Travis Etienne. And if I can get him as my running back 3, man, that would really solidify me. That's the certain things you got to look at. But when you look at certain things like that, look at all different angles, it can really set you up for some success.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Regardless of where you are, contending, rebuilding on the fence here, what factors, because we have all of those teams in our portfolio. I know I do, I'm sure you do. What factors, Tipp, affect your decision whether you're going to hold on to a veteran player or acquire them, one or the other of those, versus say, passing on them or trying to trade them away? What are you really looking for in those players?
I'm looking at location, like where did they end up getting traded or sent to? Because now are they fighting for opportunities? Look, this day in the football age, it seems like most running backs are going to be fighting for opportunities. You're going to have the ones that are going to be, those 15 to 18 touch guys.
Yep.
And then you're going to have those guys who are like those 6 to 8. And, maybe they got a couple of guys like that on the team. But it's who's going to be fighting for the most opportunity and who can get the most, for me, who's going to be able to get the most opportunities to score. Like, that's what I'm looking at too. Because for me in fantasy football, getting the yards and I'm looking for touchdowns, damn it. Like I want TDs. So like sorry, Joe. But I want touchdowns, man. I want to make sure that my guy is set up on a team that's going to have a lot of opportunities to get in that end zone, man. And that is one of the sole purposes that I look at when it comes to destination.
Yeah, sometimes we tend to overcomplicate these sorts of things. I mean, you need guys who get high value touches, which is near the goal line or in the red zone, and then guys that get volume. Those are the two things and the only two things that produce fantasy points. You do not get fantasy points if you have no volume and you're nowhere near the goal line. I mean, it's that simple, but we often make it a lot harder than that. So it's a really good advice there. Kind of the flip of that, though, is how do you avoid selling too early or buying too early? You know, what's the break that keeps you from smashing accept on some deals or offering deals really quickly when you find something out or learn something?
Look, at this point, Jeff, you got to research. You don't know a lot because not a lot of game is being played right now. So we don't know anything as far as that goes. So now you got to look at coaches, where are they going? What are their philosophies, or what are their tendencies or schemes or fits for these players? I was reading something today about the Sean McMahon, who is the offensive coordinator.
Sean
Mannion, there you go.
Yeah.
Who's the offensive coordinator at
Philadelphia
Eagles now. Mm-hmm. You know how he's going to start going back to the run zone blocking stuff, and that is in the wheelhouse for Saquon. So like now we're going to see a different Saquon than we did this past season, in my opinion. So you got to look at different things like that. You look at research of these different player or coaches. Yep. Then after that, you go and say, okay, is it a fit for them as far as the destination that they are now in? If it's a good fit for them as far as the destination, well, then that becomes a player that I'm willing to take a shot on when it comes draft season.
Yeah,
or if I'm trying to trade or free agent.
Yeah, because I mean, our coaches carousels basically kind of stopped spinning now, finally. And I had Bob Harris on, early last week. We talked about the 16 new offensive play callers, which is half the league. Since that episode dropped, there are 2 more. So now we are at 18 play callers who are brand new to their offense. And so there's going to be lots and lots of changes coming, and some of our players, some for the better and some for not. And so I'm with you, man. You've got to do that research. And even if just the act of of doing the research can slow you down, sometimes that will prevent you from making a decision you're going to wish you hadn't made.
Right.
But it might also keep you from making a decision you should have because it was an exploding trade offer, and it's gone now that you've taken the time to look. But I'm with you, man. I always look, unless it's just clearly and obvious I have to take this deal. I always look at the situations and try to spend a little time before I hit yes or no or counter back. So, aside from research, what would you say is your best trading habit as a dynasty manager? And you can have several or you can have none. I don't know. But what would that be, or what would they be?
It's almost like I wrote a haiku whenever you asked that question, because I was like, one of my best habits is staying patient. One of my worst habits is I'm too patient. Sometimes it's a feel. It's just like, and that's how it really is, man. It's like, sometimes I'm a little too patient. Sometimes I'm like, man, I wasn't patient enough on that dude, because now he's on this, glorious team and he might blow up next year. And I just traded him away. And then sometimes you just got to feel, you got an inkling, you just like in your gut, like, that this dude is, primed for a really, really, really breakout season. And again, that is, for me, it's Tyler Allgeier. I really think that this guy, in the right circumstance, I'm not going to say he just gets on any team. It's got to be the right circumstance.
Right.
And he's got to be the number one lead back, which he's done before. I think he can really be a breakout player this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the flip of what we just said, that you got to do your research, is that if your gut feeling is yes or no, we have a really good ability as smart people and dynasty managers to talk ourselves out of just about any gut feeling that we might have had. Sometimes, often, I find your initial reaction is actually the correct one. It's just good to know some of the facts, know the situation, know that, the player, the running back you're talking about is entering an environment where he's going to be no worse than the 1A, but he's definitely not going to be a 1B or a 2. Are there any free agents that you right now, as of today, at the end of February, which is when we're recording this, any free agents that you're really trying to target right now?
I think you might laugh. And so besides Tyler Algier,
Yeah.
okay, besides him, I really like Mike Evans too, man. I think that he's got some left in the tank. He broke his collarbone, and I did a podcast with Greg Kellogg and Rick Rusuelas, and it's going to air tonight with Dr. Kevin from Murray from Footballguys. So the commissioner. So anyway, so he was talking about like he has no limitations. He's going to be fine. The hamstring is a concern, but if he gets on a right team, or if he stays with Tampa Bay, I really love it if he stays with Tampa Bay, because they can utilize him differently now that they have Ibuka and they also have McMillan. They can utilize him more as that red zone target type, guy. Maybe a possession type receiver. He's not gonna have to do those deep runs, those deep outs anymore, man. That's what really can hurt him with those hamstrings. So I think that if they keep him, I'm really gonna be on Mike Evans. I have him in a couple dynasty leagues. I've been holding on to him, man, because of his streak, and it got broken last year. But I think he gets back to it this year, man, if he stays healthy.
Yeah, because it's something that can never be proven wrong. I'm going to die on the hill that he would have kept that streak going had he not gotten hurt. So we're just going to say that. Yeah, and also, I mean, man, if we were worried about hamstring injuries for wide receivers, we wouldn't have any. It's a position where you get those. I mean, that just kind of comes with the territory. So I think it's a smart pickup, Evans, because he's going to be discounted by a number of managers. It's going to vary from league to league to league. Even if he doesn't land back in Tampa Bay, there's still, a really good chance that he lands somewhere that's going to be able to utilize him. And even as a team's wide receiver 3, that's not necessarily the kind of value you might be looking for, but that's still value. And if it's red zone value, then, he's got week winning potential in any given week that you've got him in your lineup.
Yeah.
So, we're all about flipping things on the other side. What about free agents that you are looking to trade away that you may have now, or maybe you don't have them, but if you did, you would be looking to trade them away?
DJ Moore, man, because I just don't know what to think of him anymore. He looks like he maybe has lost a step or two as well. Usually a good player, like a tough-nosed player, but he's just had a weird stint in Chicago. So if he stays there, I'm out on him. Even if he gets traded to another team, I can't see him being like their focal point wide receiver. I know people. I thought I read some publications where it said him to Buffalo. Ill. I mean, it's
everybody to Buffalo is a rumor at this point.
It's going to have to be him and like somebody like Brian Thomas Jr. that comes and joins him, or AJ Brown that joins him. It can't just be him. No. It's like I think he needs to have a complement, another really good complement wide receiver. Rome Odunze is supposed to be that guy, but he just got hurt. And he's young. He's still got a little time. But man, if he gets on a really good team or with a really good wide receiver, he could do some work. But I'm just out on him, man. Yeah, I'm not like him.
I understand that. How about some free agents who are kind of intriguing? They're piquing your interest, but now, right this moment, it's not really the time that you want to move on them. You want a little bit more clarity on what's going to happen to them.
Yeah, Alec Pierce is the first one, and what I really like about him is what he did from the season before in 2024 to this year. You could see a tremendous jump as far as his route running ability. I mean, he went from something like his intermediate passes. I think there were any pass from like 10 to 19 yards. He went from 40th in 2024 to 15th in 2025. So that tells you right there, he was working on his route running. He was not just a deep ball guy anymore. So he's young, so he's going to continue to work. So he's going to stay hungry. I like him. I think if he gets on a really good situation, on a team with a really good situation at a quarterback, man, he can be one of those guys like a Tyler Algier that we're talking about to have a breakout season. And I just got an affinity for this guy. and it's Rachaad White. Dude, look, he's one of those guys that's under the radar guys who, he's carried a full load as far as from a running back from when he played on Tampa Bay. But he's been a dual guy in the committee.
Yeah.
He's been the second guy or sometimes the first guy in the committee. So, and one guy said it the best. I was talking in the Football Guys forums, and he was like, he's a master of none. He's good at a lot of things, but the master of none. And he truly is. But if he gets in the right situation, like at Kansas City, the dude could fall in the end zone 10 times.
Exactly.
It's just one of those things where, it may be ugly the whole season.
Yeah.
He usually stays healthy, but it's going to be ugly. But from what they had this last year to getting Rachaad White, I think would be a bump up for them.
Yeah, I mean, he fits the Kareem Hunt role perfectly there for an Andy Reid style of offense. And I have an affinity to Rachaad White, too. I think he's underappreciated and misunderstood.
Yes, he is.
He's probably I would say the second best RB2 from, in the last couple of years, maybe behind David Montgomery. And it's just because that offense in Detroit was humming along. Yeah. But I mean, he's been a top 24 running back, even as the number 2. He's been a top 6 as the number 1. The efficiency's not great, but a lot of what he's asked to do is pick up 1 or 2 yards, right? So he comes into some of those short yard situations. And so what I've got him in a point per first down league, and he's actually quite a bit more valuable over there than he is in some of the other kinds of formats, specifically because he's picking up 3rd and 1 and 2nd and 1. And you don't need but 2 yards to do that. You don't have to scamper 15 yards down the field if it's 2nd and 1 or 2nd and 2. So I'm with you on that. And of course, there's just some fond memories. I've won championships behind Rachaad White before. So man. Yeah. He is somebody I would love to see. I think the theme's coming out here. We want to see receivers in Buffalo, and we want to see running backs in Kansas City. We haven't talked about tight ends yet. Not sure where we want them to be, but there are some tight ends moving around this year, and there's a quarterback roulette wheel that's also still coming. So lots of these question marks will be filled in over the next few months. But the savvy dynasty managers that are listening here and watching and are around us are certainly going to be active during this period and not just sit back and wait for all the musical chairs to be filled before you start making some moves. Tipp, thanks so much for being here today. Any parting words of wisdom, or you want to remind everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, at Tipp Major. That's TIPPMAJOR. You can find me on X, Threads. I'm kind of researching Threads a little bit or making my way through there. Also Instagram, YouTube, with sports affiliation, Rotoballer, Football Guys, of course, the great Football Guys, and so you just find me. And Spaces. I'm sorry, Spaces. We're gonna be doing Spaces starting March 11th, 7 p.m. We're going to do a space. It's going to be me, Nico Rossler, and Nader Saba, who is and Nico is with Rotoballer as well. So we got a space coming for your butts. It's going to be nice.
That's a good crew right there. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we get to do this again, either here or in another capacity, seeing you in at least 2 dimensions, and certainly in 3 dimensions again in January, if not sooner. Tipp, thanks so much for joining me today. If you like today's show, please do us a favor and click the likes and click the subscribes. Please write positive reviews for us. The best thing you can do to help us grow right now as a show is go over to Apple Podcasts, throw down a 5-star rating, and give us a nice review over there to help us grow. And we will be back next week with another outstanding guest and another topic about dynasty strategy. So I will see you next time on Dynasty Compass.